The storm had swallowed the entire coastline when the little girl appeared barefoot, shivering and running like something behind her wanted her dead. Cars rushed past. Thunder cracked. No one stopped. No one except the wrong person. A black SUV slowed beside her. Windows tinted. Engine too quiet. The kind of vehicle you only see in stories that end badly. She didn't look at it. She kept running until a woman's scream exploded from the cliffs below. The sound cut through the rain like a knife. The girl stopped, turned, and her heart dropped down by the crashing waves. A car had skidded through the guardrail and plunged into the ocean with a woman still trapped inside. People gathered, shocked, frozen, filming with their phones instead of helping. But the little girl, the runaway, didn't hesitate. She dropped her backpack, stepped onto the slippery rocks, and dove straight into the black water without a second of fear. 9 minutes. That's how long she was underwater. 9 minutes before the crowd screamed, and a pair of small hands dragged the unconscious woman back to shore. Nobody knew who the girl was. Nobody knew where she came from. But within an hour, every crime family in the city would know her name. Because the woman she saved was the wife of the most feared mafia boss in the entire East Coast. And sunset, little Runaway would become part of his family forever. Stay with me until the end, because what happened in those 9 underwater minutes turned a terrified child into the most unexpected hero the Mafia had ever seen. The girl's name was Emma. 11 years old, 4 feet 7 inches tall, weighing maybe 80 pounds, soaking wet, which she was, standing on those jagged rocks, salt water streaming from her tangled brown hair. She had been running for 3 days straight. 3 days since she escaped from the Riverside Children's Home after Mr. Peterson tried to put his hands where they didn't belong. 3 days of sleeping in bus station bathrooms and eating scraps from garbage cans behind fast food restaurants. Her thin jacket clung to her shaking body like a second skin. Her sneakers were falling apart, altogether duct tape she'd stolen from a hardware store. Everything she owned was crammed into that weathered backpack, lying forgotten on the rocks above. But none of that mattered when she heard that scream. The luxury sedan had hydroplaned on the rain-soaked highway. Emma watched it happen in slow motion. The expensive car spinning like a toy, smashing through the metal barrier, tumbling down the rocky slope and plunging hood first into the churning gray ocean. The driver's door was already underwater. The passenger side tilted toward the sky at a crazy angle. Through the rear window, Emma could see movement. Someone was alive in there. Someone was drowning above her. Maybe 20 people had gathered along the guardrail. They pointed. They shouted. They held up their phones to record the disaster. But nobody moved to help. Someone called 911. A man yelled. The fire department's 20 minutes away. Another voice replied. She'll be dead by then, said a woman in a red raincoat. Emma didn't wait to hear more. She kicked off her broken sneakers and dove. The ocean hit her like a frozen fist. The salt burned her eyes. The current tried to drag her sideways against the rocks. But Emma had learned to swim in the city pool before her mom died. Before the foster homes. Before everything went wrong. She kicked hard, fighting the waves, swimming toward the sinking car. The sedan was going down fast. Water poured through the cracked windshield. The engine compartment already completely submerged. Emma could see the woman inside, trapped by her seatbelt, pounding weakly against the passenger window. The woman had long black hair and was wearing a white blouse that billowed around her in rising water. Her mouth was pressed against the roof of the car, gasping for the last pocket of air. Emma reached the vehicle just as it slipped another foot deeper. She grabbed the door handle and pulled. Locked. She swam to the passenger window and pounded on the glass with her small fists. The woman's eyes met hers through water-streaked wind. They were dark brown, wide with terror, but also something else. Recognition. Hope. Emma took the biggest breath of her life and dove under the car. The water was darker here, colder. Her lungs already burned. She felt along the bottom of the vehicle until she found a jagged piece of metal from the crash. A sharp fragment of the bumper that had torn loose when the car hit the rocks. She grabbed it and swam back to the passenger window. The woman was unconscious now. Her body floated limply in the water that had filled the car almost completely. Maybe 30 seconds of air left in the very top corner of the roof. Emma raised the metal fragment and struck the window as hard as she could. Nothing. Again, a spider of cracks appeared. Her chest felt like it was going to explode. Spots danced in front of her eyes. She needed air. She needed to surface, but if she did, the woman would die. Emma hit the window a third time. The glass shattered inward. Water rushed into the car. But Emma was already inside, fighting against the current, grabbing the woman around the waist. The seatbelt was fastened. Emma's fingers fumbled with metal buckle. It was stuck. Her vision started to fade. Her body screamed for oxygen. This was taking too long. They were both going to drown. Then the buckle clicked open. Emma wrapped her thin arms around the unconscious woman and kicked toward the surface. But the woman was heavy, much heavier than Emma expected, and they were deeper now. The car had continued sinking while Emma worked to free her. 15 feet to the surface. Then 20. Emma's legs cramped. Her arms felt like lead. The woman's dead weight dragged them both down. This was impossible. An 11-year-old girl could tease a grown woman from a sinking car. The physics didn't work. Strength wasn't there, but Emma kept kicking anyway. Her head broke the surface just as her body gave out completely. She gasped, choked, went under again. The waves threw both of them against the rocks. Emma's shoulder scraped against the barnacles, leaving a trail of blood in the water. Somehow, she found the strength to grab a piece of seaweed-covered stone. Then another, hand over hand. She dragged herself and the woman toward the narrow strip of beach below the cliffs. People were shouting from above. Someone had climbed down and was running toward them through the surf, but Emma barely heard any of it. She pulled the woman onto wet sand and immediately started pushing on her chest the way she'd seen on television. Water poured from the woman's mouth. Her lips were blue. Her skin was cold as ice. "Come on," Emma whispered, pressing harder. "Come on. Come on. Come on." Nothing. Emma tilted the woman's head back, pinched her nose, and breathed into her mouth. Then back to chest compressions. Breathe. Push. Breathe. Push. The woman's body jerked. She coughed violently, expelling more cedar. Her eyes fluttered open. "You're okay," Emma said, her own voice from swallowing salt water. "You're going to be okay." The woman stared up at her with those dark brown eyes. She tried to speak but could only whisper. Who are you?" "Nobody," Emma said, already looking around for her backpack. She needed to disappear before the police arrived, before the questions started, before they sent her back to another group home. But as she turned to leave, the woman's hand caught her wrist. "Wait," the woman said, stronger now. "Please, what is your name?" Emma hesitated. She'd been using fake names for 3 days. Jennifer, Sarah, ain't, whatever seemed safe in the moment. But something in the woman's eyes made her tell the truth. "Emma," she said quietly. "My name is Emma." The woman smiled despite her chattering teeth. "I'm Isabella. Isabella Romano, and you just saved my life." Emma didn't know it, but that name would change everything because Isabella Romano wasn't just any woman. She was the beloved wife of Vincent Romano, the head of the most powerful crime family in the East Coast. A man who would kill anyone who threatened his wife. A man who would do anything for someone who saved her. And right now, paramedics were loading Isabella into an ambulance, while Emma tried to slip away unnoticed into the crowd. But Vincent Romano's men had already spotted her. They'd been watching from that black SUV since the moment she jumped into the water. The black SUV's engine hummed quietly as Emma tried to disappear into the chaos. Shouted orders. Police cars arrived, flashing lights. News vans pulled up along the highway above. But the 3 men in expensive suits who stepped out of that SUV weren't watching the ambulance. They were watching her. Emma grabbed her soggy backpack and started walking away from the beach, her bare feet slipping on the wet rocks. She kept her head down, trying to blend in with the crowd of onlookers. Just another curious kid who wandered down to see the accident. "Excuse me, little girl." The voice was deep, calm, and carried an accent that sounded came from old movies about New York. Emma's blood turned to ice. She didn't turn around. She walked faster. "Kid, just want to talk." Heavy footsteps crunched on the gravel behind her. Emma broke into a run, screaming up the rocky slope toward the highway. Her wet clothes weighed her down. Muscles were exhausted from the rescue, but fear gave her speed. She made it halfway up the cliff before a gentle hand touched her shoulder. "Easy there, little hero. Nobody is going to hurt you." Emma spun around, ready to bite, scratch, or kick if she had to. Instead, she found herself looking up at a man who seemed to take up half sky. He was maybe 50 years old, with silver hair, slicked back, and kind eyes that didn't match his intimidating size. "My name is Tony," he said, crouching down to her level. "Tony Marcelli. I work for Mrs. Romano's husband. The lady you just saved? She is my boss's wife." Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. She heard whispers about families like the Romanos. The kind of people who made problems disappear, the kind who didn't forget debts, good or bad. "I didn't do anything," she whispered. Tony smiled. It wasn't a scare smile. It was the kind her grandfather might have given her, if she ever had a grandfather. "Kid, you just jumped into the ocean during a storm to save a woman you'd never met. That's not nothing. That's everything." Behind Tony, the other two men waited by their SUV. They looked like bodyguards from movies. Dark sunglasses despite the cloudy sky. Hands folded in front of them, patient as statues. "What do you want?" Emma asked. "Mr. Romano wants to meet you, to thank you properly." Emma shook her head. "I can't. I have to go." "Where?" The question hung in the like challenge. Where could an 11-year-old runaway go? What home was waiting for her? What family would welcome her back? Emma's silence was answer enough. "Look," Tony said, pulling a thick envelope from his jacket. "Mrs. Romano asked me to give you this. For what you did today." Emma stared at the envelope. It was stuffed with money. More money than she'd ever seen in her life. Enough to buy food for months. Maybe even enough for a bus ticket to somewhere far away where nobody knew her name. Taking money from these people felt dangerous. Like stepping into quicksand. "I don't want it," she said. Tony's eyebrows went up. "You don't want it? I just helped someone. That's what you're supposed to do." For a long moment, Tony studied her face. Then he stood up and tucked the envelope back into his jacket. "You know what, kid? I think Mr. Romano is going to like you very much." Before Emma could ask what that meant, Tony was walking back toward the SUV. Over his shoulder, he called, "Vincent Romano, didn't forget his debts. And right now, he owes you the biggest debt of his life." The three men climbed back into their vehicle and drove away, leaving Emma standing alone on the rocky slope with questions spinning in her head. She didn't know that at that very moment, Vincent Romano was pacing the waiting room of St. Mary's Hospital like a caged tiger. She didn't know that his wife had whispered Emma's name to him through oxygen tubes and 4 lines. She didn't know that he'd already sent his best men to find out everything there was to know about the little girl who risked her life for Isabella. What Emma did know was that she was cold, hungry, and more alone than ever. She climbed the rest of the way to the highway and started walking. The rain had stopped, but dark clouds still covered the sky. Cars splashed through puddles as they passed, soaking her legs with dirty water. After an hour of walking, Emma's strength gave out. She found a bus stop with a small covered bench and collapsed onto it, shivering. Her backpack was still damp. Her clothes clung to her skin. Her stomach cramped with hunger. She closed her eyes and tried to figure out her next move. Maybe she could hitchhike to the next town, find a truck driver who looked safe, or sneak onto a freight train like kids did in old movies. The sound of an approaching engine made her look up. Another black SUV was pulling into the bus stop, the same one from before. Emma jumped to her feet, ready to run again. But this time, the passenger door opened and Isabella Romano stepped out. She looked different than she had on the beach. Her black hair was dry now, pulled back in an elegant bun. She wore a long black coat over dark jeans and expensive-looking boots. But her face was still pale, and she moved carefully like someone who'd been through an ordeal. "Hello, Emma," Isabella said softly. Emma backed away until she hit the bus stop line. "How did you find me?" "My husband's men are very good at finding people." Isabella took a step closer. "But I didn't come here to scare you. I came to say thank you." "You already said thank you." "Not properly." Isabella reached into her purse and pulled a small box wrapped in silver paper. "This was my grandmother's. She gave it to me when I was about your age, and I've been waiting for the right person to pass it on to." Emma stared at the box, but didn't take it. "I can't accept presents from strangers." Isabella smiled. "We're not strangers anymore. You saved my life. In my family, that makes us connected forever. Family, the Roman family." Isabella's voice carried a weight that Emma didn't fully understand. "We take care of people who take care of us. And you, brave little Emma, took better care of me than anyone ever has." Emma looked past Isabella to the SUV. Through the tinted windows, she could see the silhouettes of men inside, waiting, watching, ready for whatever Isabella decided. "I don't want to be part of any family," Emma said. "Families hurt you. They let you down. They send you away when you become inconvenient." Isabella's expression softened. "Not this family. You don't know me. You don't know what I've done. The places I've been. You're right. I don't know your story yet." Isabella, the silver box again. "But I know your heart. I know what you're made of, and that's enough." Emma's hands shook as she reached for the gift. The box was heavier than it looked. Inside, nestled in black velvet, was a small golden pendant shaped like a lighthouse with a tiny diamond at the top. "My grandmother told me that lighthouses guide ships safely to shore," Isabella said. "Even in the worst storms, even when everything seems lost." She paused, watching Emma's reaction. "That's what you did for me today." Emma touched the pendant with one finger. It was the most beautiful thing she'd ever held. "There's something else," Isabella said. "My husband would like to meet you to thank you properly. Will you come with me?" Emma looked up from the necklace. "What if I say no?" "Then Tony will drive you wherever you want to go. No questions asked." "And if I say yes?" Isabella smiled. "Then you'll have the best meal of your life, a warm bed to sleep in, and a family that will never ever let you down." Emma clutched the lighthouse pendant in a small fist. For the first time in 3 days, it wasn't too cold anymore. Emma climbed into the SUV, clutching the lighthouse necklace like a lifeline. The leather seats were warm and soft, nothing like the hard plastic chairs in group homes, or the cold concrete she'd been sleeping on for days. Isabella sat beside her while Tony drove through the city streets. They passed neighborhoods Emma had never seen before, where the houses got bigger and lawns got greener with every mile. "Where are we going?" Emma asked quietly. "Home," Isabella said simply. The Romano estate sat behind tall iron gates that opened automatically as they approached. Emma pressed her face to the window, staring at gardens that looked like something from fairy tales, fountains, stone statues, trees older than anything she'd ever seen. The house itself was enormous. 3 stories of cream-colored stone with columns like a museum. Lights glowed warmly and dozens of windows. It was the kind of place Emma had only seen in movies about rich people. "This is where you live?" she whispered. Isabella nodded. "Vincent and I don't have children of our own. It gets quiet sometimes." The SUV stopped in front of massive wooden doors. Tony got first, scanning the area like he expected trouble. Then he opened Isabella's door, then Emma's. "Welcome to the Roman family home," he said with a slight bow. Emma stepped onto marble steps that probably cost more than most people's escalator. Her bare feet looked tiny against the polished stone. Her torn jeans and faded t-shirt felt even more raggedy in this setting. The front doors opened before they reached them. A woman in a black dress with gray hair pulled into a tight bun smiled at Isabella. "Mrs. Romano, thank God you're safe. We've been so worried." "I'm fine, Maria. Thanks to this brave young lady." Isabella placed her hand on Emma's shoulder. "Emma, this is Maria. She's been taking care of this house longer than I've been alive." Maria's eyes widened as she looked down at Emma. "This is the child who saved you. This is her." Maria knelt down to Emma's level, her stern expression melting into something warm. "Then you are a hero, little one. And heroes are always welcome in this house." They stepped into a foyer that made Emma's jaw drop. Crystal chandeliers hung from a ceiling painted with angels and clouds. A curved staircase swept upward like something from a princess movie. Paintings in golden frames covered the walls. "Mr. Romano is waiting in his study," Maria said. "But perhaps the young lady would like to freshen up first." Emma looked down at herself. She was still damp from the ocean. Salt had dried in her hair. Her clothes smelled like seaweed in fear. "That's a wonderful idea," Isabella said. "Maria, you draw a bath and maybe find some clothes that might fit?" "Of course." Emma found herself following Maria up that incredible staircase, her hand trailing along a banister smooth as silk. They walked down a hallway lined with more paintings and photographs. Happy families, wedding pictures, moments of joy captured for Maria. A door to reveal the most beautiful bathroom Emma had ever seen. The bathtub was the size of a small swimming pool, surrounded by white marble and gold fixtures. Fluffy towels hung from heated racks. Bottles of fancy soaps and shampoos lined glass shelves. Take as long as you need, Maria said kindly. I'll find you something clean to wear. When Maria left, Emma stared at herself in the enormous mirror. She looked like a drowned rat. Her brown hair hung in tangles. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Her lips were still slightly blue from the cold water. But around her neck, the lighthouse pendant caught the light and sparkled like a star. She filled the bathtub with water so hot it steamed. When she sank into it, every muscle in her body sighed with relief. The warmth soaked through her skin, chasing away the last of the ocean's chill. Emma couldn't remember the last time she had a real bath. The group homes had showers with lukewarm water and time limits. Before that, the foster family had made her feel like a burden for using too much hot water. She stayed in the tub and her fingers wrinkled, washing 3 times shampoo that smelled like flowers. When she finally got out, Maria had left a pile of clothes on the counter. Soft jeans that fit perfectly, a sweater the color cream that felt like wearing a cloud, new socks, even underwear that still had tags on it. Emma stared at the clothes. They were nicer than anything she ever owned. How did you know my size? She called through the door. I raised 5 children, Maria's voice came back. You learned to guess. When Emma emerged from the bathroom, she found Maria waiting with a hairbrush and a kind smile. Sit, Maria said, gesturing to a chair by the window. Let me fix your hair. Emma sat very still as Maria gently worked the tangles from her hair. It had been so long since anyone had touched her with such care. Her throat tightened with emotions she didn't want to name. There, Maria said finally. Beautiful. Emma looked in the mirror again. The transformation was incredible. She looked like a different person. Clean, cared for, almost like she belonged in a place like this. Now, Maria, are you ready to meet Mr. Romano? Emma's stomach fluttered with nerves. She heard stories about men like Vincent Romano, dangerous men who solved problems with violence. But he was Isabella's husband, and Isabella had been nothing but kind. I'm ready, Emma said, though her voice shook slightly. They walked back downstairs and through corridors lined with artwork that probably belonged in museums. Maria stopped in front of heavy wooden doors carved with intricate designs. She knocked softly. Come in, said a deep voice from inside. Maria opened doors and Emma stepped into Vincent Romano's private study. The room was all dark wood and leather, filled with books from floor to ceiling. A fire crackled in a stone fireplace. Behind a massive desk sat a man who seemed to fill the entire space with his presence. Vincent Romano was not what Emma had expected. He was tall and broad-shouldered with salt and pepper hair and intelligent brown eyes. He wore a simple shirt with the sleeves rolled up, no tie. He looked more like a college professor than a crime boss. But there was something in his eyes, a sharpness, a sense that he saw everything and forgot nothing. He stood when Emma entered, which surprised her. Adults didn't usually stand for children. So he said, his voice carrying that same New York accent as Tony's. You're the little hero I've been hearing about. Emma stayed close to the door, ready to run if she needed to. I'm not a hero. I just helped one. Vincent smiled. It transformed his entire face, making him look young and less intimidating. Just help someone. He walked around the desk, moving slowly so he wouldn't frighten her. My wife tells me you dove into the ocean during a storm, that you broke a car window with your bare hands, that you dragged her to safety when she weighed twice what you do. He stopped a few feet away from Emma. That sounds like hero work to me. Emma looked at her feet. Anyone would have done the same thing. No, Vincent said quietly. They wouldn't have. 20 people stood on that cliff and watched. 20 people with phones who called for help but didn't help themselves. Only you jumped in that water. He gestured to a leather chair in front of his desk. Please sit. We have things to discuss. Emma perched on the edge of the chair, still ready to bolt. Vincent sat across from her, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. Tell me about yourself, Emma. What's your story? Emma's jaw tightened. Why does it matter? Because my wife is alive because of you. That makes you family. And family looks out for each other. I don't have a family. You do now. The words hung in the air between them. Emma studied Vincent's face, looking for lies or tricks. But his expression was serious, sincere. I don't understand, she said finally. Vincent leaned back in his chair. In my world, there are rules, codes of honor that go back generations. One of the most important rules is this: you never forget a debt. And right now, I owe you a debt I can never repay. I don't want money, Emma said quickly. I know. Isabella told me you refused the envelope. Vincent's eyes crinkled with amusement. That tells me more about your character than anything else could. He stood and walked to a bookshelf, pulling down a leather-bound photo album. He opened it and showed Emma the first page. It was a wedding picture. Vincent in a black tuxedo, looking young and nervous. Isabella in a white dress, radiant with joy. We've been married 23 years, Vincent said softly. She has been the light of my life since the day we met. Without her, he trailed off, his voice thick with emotion. Emma looked at the picture, then up Vincent. For the first time, she saw past the intimidating exterior to the man underneath. A man who loved his wife more than anything in the world. The doctor said she was underwater for 9 minutes, Vincent continued. They said damage was almost certain after that long. But she's perfect, completely fine because you got to her in time. He closed the album and looked directly at Emma. You gave me back the most important thing in my world. How do I repay that? Emma shifted uncomfortably. You don't have to repay anything. Yes, I do. It's who I am. Vincent returned to his chair. So, I'm gonna ask you again, and I want the truth this time. What is your story, Emma? Where do you come from? Where are your parents? Emma's hands clenched into fists in her lap. She'd been asked these questions 100 times by social workers, police officers, foster parents, but something about Vincent's tone made her want to answer honestly. My mom died when I was 7, she said quietly. Cancer. I never knew my dad. After that, it was foster homes and group homes and people who said they cared but didn't really. Vincent's expression darkened. Someone hurt you. It wasn't a question. Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. The last place was the worst. The man who ran it, Emma swallowed hard. He had wandering hands, so I ran away 3 days ago. Vincent's hands slowly curled into fists. When he spoke, his voice was deadly quiet. What was this man's name? Emma looked up, startled by the change in his tone. Vincent's eyes had gone cold as winter. This was the dangerous man she'd heard about in whispers. I don't want to cause trouble, she said quickly. What was his name? Peterson. His name was Peterson. Vincent nodded once, filing the information away. Emma had a feeling Peterson's life had just become very complicated. You said you've been on your own for 3 days. Vincent said, his voice gentling again. Where have you been sleeping? What have you been eating? Emma told him about the bus stations, the garbage cans, the cold nights, bridges. Vincent listened without interruption, his expression growing more troubled with every detail. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. That ends now, he said finally. What do you mean? Vincent stood and walked to the window that looked out over his estate's gardens. I mean, you're not going back to any group home. You're not sleeping in bus stations or eating from garbage cans. You're staying here. Emma's heart jumped. I can't do that. I'm nobody. I don't belong in a place like this. Vincent turned back to her. You saved my wife's life. That makes you somebody. That makes you family. And Romano takes care of each other. But what about the authorities? They'll be looking for me. Vincent's smile was not entirely pleasant. Let me worry about the authorities. Emma stared at him, trying to process what he was offering. A home, a family, safety. It seemed too good to be true. In her experience, things seemed too good to be true usually were. Why? She whispered. Why would you do this for a stranger? Emma looked into Vincent Romano's eyes, saw something she'd never seen before in an adult. Complete sincerity. No hidden agenda. No lies waiting behind kind words. Because you're not a stranger, Vince said slowly. Not anymore. You risked everything to save someone you'd never met. That tells me who you are inside, and that's the kind of person I want in my family. He walked back to his desk and picked up a framed photo. It showed him and Isabella at some kind of family gathering, surrounded by dozens of people laughing and embracing. This is what family looks like in my world, he said. Loyalty, protection, love that doesn't come with conditions. He set the photo down and looked at Emma. I'm offering you something that can never be taken away. A place where you belong. People who will fight for you. A home. Emma's eyes filled with tears. she'd been holding back for years. What if I disappoint you? What if I'm not worth saving? Vincent knelt in front of her chair, bringing himself to her. Eye level. Listen to me very carefully, Emma. You dove into a freezing ocean to save a complete stranger. You stayed underwater for 9 minutes when your body was screaming for air. You performed CPR on someone twice your size until she breathed again. His voice grew fierce with conviction. You are worth everything. Emma looked at this powerful man kneeling before her, offering her the one thing she'd given up hoping for. A real family, a real home, a chance to be more than just a survivor. She thought about the lighthouse pendant around her neck, about guiding ships safely to shore through the storms. Maybe it was time to let someone guide her home, too. Okay, she whispered. I'll stay. Vincent Romano smiled and pulled the brave little girl who saved his wife into the first real hug she had in 4 years. And that's how a runaway child became the most protected person in the Romano crime family overnight. Sometimes the most unexpected heroes find the most unexpected homes.